There you go. That's a taste of Crossfire, a new song from Brandon Flowers. The last time Brandon Flowers stopped by Studio Q, it was in his capacity as the lead singer of the multi-platinum rockers, The Killers. Today, however, he's joining me to talk about a more personal project, his first ever solo outing, an album titled Flamingo. From the title through to the songs, Flamingo is an album that frequently evokes images of Brandon Flowers' hometown, Las Vegas. And although Flamingo occasionally shares some of The Killers' anthemic momentum, you might say this record distinguishes itself by including such fresh flourishes as gospel, rootsy instrumentation, and a duet with Rilo Kiley's Jenny Lewis. And while this is Brandon Flowers' solo record, he did have some help from a trio of acclaimed producers, including Stuart Price, Brendan O'Brien, and Canada's own Daniel Lanois. Flamingo drops next week on September 14th, but first, I'm pleased to have Brandon Flowers with me here today in Studio Q. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Nice to have you back in Canada. So this is exciting, right?
Yeah.
This is your first foray into being a solo man.
Yeah, it's new territory for me, but it's conjuring up old
anxieties.
A lot of anxieties. You're playing songs that people don't know. Going back to smaller rooms though has actually been a real treat for me. Yeah,
you're doing these small rooms first before you'll probably inevitably end up in larger rooms. Tell me if this is the right story. So you wrote these songs thinking that they were for a new Killers record, and then they became your solo record. Is that right?
It's sort of right. It's every song I write, at least up until a certain point, had been a Killer song. I've never been in any other band really that performed and made records with. So it's my identity. When I write a song, I think of it as a Killer song. And then we came to a point, we'd always talked about having a good break in the band and taking some time to try to kind of take in what's happened. And a couple of the guys finally, said, we're serious about it this time.
Yeah.
And I had all these songs that were already cooking, and I decided to chase him down.
So you guys have been, The Killers, it's been relentless. You have been on tour and you put 3 records out, and with each record you did massive touring, I think 3 cycles of touring, almost 3. Yeah. It's just relentlessly working. It makes sense that your bandmates wanted a break. Why don't you want a break?
I do want to break, and I feel like touring has gotten easier as we've had more success. We were very lucky to have success early on, and so we started calling the shots a little bit more. And so with each album cycle, even though it seems like you hear, they were on the road for a year and a half. There was, on Day and Age, there was a gap in that year and a half where I was home for a month. There was a couple gaps where I was home for a couple of weeks. Whereas touring for the first album, Hot
and you
Fuss,
weren't touring in a Buick Impala.
Yeah, and we're staying in nicer places. It's easier to get around. The first album was more like 2 years. Half of it was in a white small van driving around. Right. Lucky to get a hotel. Then you grew into the bus, and then we still haven't graduated to jets, but I really like the bus.
But you're okay jumping right back in. Here you are back on the road promoting a new record.
I feel like it would have been a shame to not do that for these songs.
How did they respond when you said, okay, guys, I still want to do this. I want to put out a solo record?
I think a couple of them wanted the break so bad that they were happy about this, So it's actually a really positive thing.
So there's 4. So 2 were happy.
One of them, I think, would like to be out here with me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ronnie. Yeah, I could guess. Well, he plays drums on some of this record, right?
He plays drums on Playing with Fire.
Yeah.
And Dave actually plays a fantastic guitar solo at the end of Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas.
Solo records from artists associated with successful bands have a checkered success rate. Even Jagger, right?
Yeah.
Biggest band in the world, and he puts out a solo record. And people go, okay, very nice. We'll wait for the next Stones record. You mentioned in a recent interview that your record company even warned you about this. What did they say?
As soon as they heard about it, I was bombarded with texts and emails and statistics about how this is going to fail, basically, and how it's they're willing to back it up. if that's what I truly want to do, but it's not going to work, basically. And
were you discouraged by that?
It was a little bit discouraging, but I've always, had a strange amount of self-belief. I don't know where that comes from. I just loved the songs. I knew the song. I felt like they hadn't really lived with the songs that I had. I only had demos of the songs, and I can hear, I can see past that and see how where the song was headed. And I felt,
and the record's not out quite yet, but people would have heard the lead single and seen the video. But it's a really strong record, and it sounds, if you don't mind me saying, at times like a good Killers record. Is that empowering for you? I mean, on some level, do you sort of say, I know you're not going to throw your band members under the bus, but on some level, do you sort of go, I can do this alone. Why am I in a band?
No, I don't know. I think I think the reason that would have similarities to Killers records is because I've learned a lot from those guys, and I'm applying everything that I've learned, to this. I'm trying not to, I'm not, using any Dave or Mark's secrets, per se, but I've definitely learned things from them, and so it's definitely going to show up on the record. You
did an interview a couple years ago, I think it probably was, in Chicago Time Out magazine, and the guy said, what would a Brandon Flowers solo record sound like? And you said it would be more adventurous.
Yeah.
Do you think that prognostication has come before?
I definitely set out on that with the hopes of it being more adventurous, and we were going. We started off with just me and Stuart Price, and we were gonna, have world beats and crazy synths, and we were gonna make this, eclectic but very attainable pop music, and it just didn't. The songs that I couldn't force that to happen.
Right.
So the songs that kept coming out of me were actually more meat and potatoes, kind of American rock.
There's a lot of Las Vegas in this record, from everything from the title of the record to the songs themselves to the lyrical content. Did you choose that, or did Vegas, is it so deep in you that that's where your writing goes?
It tends to go there, and I'd had quite a bit of time off after the last album there. So when I was writing the lyrics, I was at home, and it definitely crept its way on to the songs.
But what's interesting is that we think of Vegas as this hedonistic place, this adult playground, home of vices, and but this is where you've grown up. This is where your family is, your kids are. This is where you live. So. Do you tap into that? How do you tap into that dark side of Vegas when it's your home?
I think I've found normalcy in Las Vegas, and it's for me. I do feel like I want to defend it a lot of the time, but I think for the first time I've confronted it. With the song like "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas."
Yeah,
and so
it ain't pretty.
No, and so it's.
Well, the song is kind of pretty.
I'm able to, so I guess as I'm getting older, I'm able to. I get it. I do understand it's not a perfect place, but I have found beauty in a lot of it, and maybe it's the desert or my romanticized notion of Las Vegas, and thinking of Sinatra and Elvis, driving around in Cadillacs, and I don't know what it is.
I want to play a bit of a song called Hard Enough. This is the one that features the guest spot from Jenny Lewis. And it was written for your wife, this song, was it?
I mean, I've never come out and said that. It's definitely, I'm sure that it's inevitable that my experiences with my wife are going to creep in there somehow.
What does Hard Enough refer to?
I think just the growing up and the process of keeping a relationship together, and it's not easy, and I do believe it's worth it.
From the brand new Brandon Flowers record that comes out next week entitled Flamingo, take a listen to a taste of this. This is the song Hard Enough featuring Jenny Lewis. From the brand new Brandon Flowers record Flamingo, that's the song Hard Enough featuring a guest spot from Jenny Lewis of Rilo Kiley fame. Interesting talking about the difficulties of being on the road, talking about your relationship with your wife. How has it been for you balancing a career as a rock star with being, from what I know of you, a guy who's not just family-oriented but gravitates towards being family-oriented?
It's something that is difficult. It became a kind of something that you had to learn how to juggle, in the beginning and when I was younger. And now as I get older, it's easier because I have a very concise kind of direction, and I know what's most important. So it's made it a lot easier.
What does that mean? Concise direction.
I know
you did a chop with your
before,
hand.
Well,
as you
before it was I don't know what to do. You hear these fantastic stories about David Bowie and Led Zeppelin, and
you mean the hedonistic side?
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff sounds awesome when you're 21 years old.
Yeah,
and now I have 2 sons and my wife, and it's the joy I get from that is better than any headache I can get from the other stuff.
Well, speaking of family, Brandon, if you don't mind me asking, earlier this year you lost your mother to cancer. You were very close. Did immersing yourself in this record help you deal with that loss?
If it has, it's a subconscious thing. It's not something that I set out to do. I've said, it's as awful as it was. You know that it's inevitable, and something that replaces it. The grief, I guess, is the happiness you get from my kids, and so that's made it a lot easier. You
got to see her. There's an amazing story about you're about to go on tour.
Yeah.
And the flight is delayed, and you get the phone call that your mom only has a couple weeks left.
Yeah, and the family told me to go, but I couldn't do it. I didn't want to risk it. But yeah, it was definitely the right decision, and I'm really happy that I stayed home.
You work with 3 producers on this record. Stuart Price, who's produced The Killers before, Brendan O'Brien, who's worked with Dylan, Springsteen, AC/DC, and of course Canadian legend Daniel Lanois. What was your rationale for bringing in 3 producers?
It was, no offense to the 2 guys that were brought in. It was the original idea was to be just with Stuart, and then, like I said, the songs kept coming out of me. Just we're going down roads that Stuart has just not been down, and I think he knew it, and he was willing to go for it. But he was also very open to bringing in somebody that had been down the roads. And so I just the first person that came to my mind was Daniel Lanois. I love the.
Have you worked with him before?
No, I never. I'd met him once at some kind of party, and very briefly. And I don't think he remembers, but I remember Daniel. And
you don't forget when you meet Lanois.
No.
Yeah.
So I love some of the stuff that a lot of the stuff that he's worked on, and he's very rooted in organic and gospel music, but he loves to mix it up and bring it into the 21st century, and so I thought he was our man.
What'd you learn from him in the studio?
He has a very spiritual approach to music. I feel like I've been around guys that are very professional and are very capable, and he's not so much about the technical stuff as he is about the essence of the song, and why are we doing the song, where does this come from, what does this represent, and in the human existence, it's a whole other from left field for me, and that was a really nice way to look at things.
Do you already know what you're doing with the Killers next? I mean, is this? Do you follow this record through and then see what happens, or do you guys have a plan that you're going to reconvene at a certain date?
Yeah, we don't know the exact date, but it's definitely going to be in 2011.
Okay,
something's going to happen.
Killers aren't going anywhere.
No.
I want to go out on a song called "Swallow It," and you said it's your proudest creation on this record. What do you like about this song?
I think it's I like it when bands can experiment and still leave you with something that's familiar, and heaven forbid it's catchy, and that's what I feel like I accomplished with this song.
It's good to see you, man.
You too.
You're looking tanned. You look fit. You look ready to go. I mean, you're clearly beginning at the tour here, right?
Yeah.
Not that you ever look particularly haggard, but best of luck with this.
Thank you.
Brandon Flowers, lead singer of the Killers and now a solo artist with his new record Flamingo, which is released next week, September 14th. From Flamingo, his proudest creation, in his own words, from this record, the song Swallow It on cue.